In this video, I'm painting a Chevy big block engine with Seymour's Hi-Tech engine enamel. Stick around to see how it turns out. So let's talk some of the engine enamels that are commonly used out there. So what you just saw on the engine that I'm getting ready to repaint was Duplicolor engine enamel, Chevy Orange DE 1620. I painted that block about 16, 17 years ago. This particular shade of Chevy Orange is supposed to be a close match to the original Chevy Orange that you would see on a lot of big blocks. You may also run into a Chevrolet Orange Red, this DE 1607. It does have just a little bit more of a red hue to it, and to be honest, I kind of like it, but it's not necessarily the right color for a big block. My research suggests that this particular shade would have more likely have been used on small blocks. And then, of course, it would depend on the year of the small block, whether or not Chevrolet used that particular shade on the block. While we're talking about spray bombs, there are a couple of others out there. I know a lot of guys like to use VHT. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments if you've got a particular engine enamel that you really like to use, what worked for you, what doesn't work for you. I'm always interested in the durability. So the other thing is, even though I'm using spray bomb here, I've actually done a number of motors with paint that gets mixed and put into a spray gun, and that's fine. Those work really well also. A couple that I've used with great success is POR's Chevy Orange engine enamel. I've used that on a 327 and a 65 Impala that I built a number of years ago, and to this day it's holding up well. It looks great. I would say that it's not as user-friendly as some of these spray bombs are. And then there's also some paint from Bill Hirsch that I really like, but again, not as convenient and user-friendly as using a spray bomb. And the Bill Hirsch stuff is actually probably my favorite engine enamel, but because I don't build a lot of motors, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to have a lot, extra paint sitting around. So the spray bombs work really good for me. So like I said, drop some comments. Let me know what works for you and what you like. So even though I've had great luck with Duplicolor over the years, and like I said, I've used the POR 15 engine enamel and the Bill Hirsch, I actually have a new go-to now, and it is the Seymour Hi-Tech Chevy Orange. I really like this, and I think, even though it's very subtle, I actually think this Seymour is the closest match to the original Chevy Orange. So anyway, I'm real happy with it. I just order it directly from them. I guess you can get it through Amazon, but I order it directly from Seymour. It doesn't necessarily require a primer, but what I will say is that shooting a block, if you're a bare metal block, if it's been hot tanked, using a primer helps with coverage. That's the one thing I would say about the Seymour stuff, is that the coverage isn't terrible, but it's not the greatest. It's somewhere in the middle, but I'm gonna sacrifice the coverage because I like the way that it sprays. I like the color and the shade of the Chevy Orange. And so yeah, I'm gonna use it. What I'm gonna do here on this block, because it does have most of the older paint on it, is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna shoot a couple of coats of primer on the bare metal areas, or some of the areas that are starting to wear thin. Again, just to help me with the coverage, and then I should be able to just come in and shoot right over the top of that with the Seymour Chevy Orange. So that's pretty much what's happening on this block. I've scuffed it all down with about 120 grit on a foam pad. I've cleaned it all up with wax and grease remover, and as you can see, I've got it all masked off now, and it's ready to be sprayed. And the other thing that I will do is I will go ahead and put all the galley plugs back in if they're taken out. I'll just go ahead and get those put back in for now, and then once we build the motor, we'll seal them up. We'll take them out and seal them up. And then I actually use some shrink wrap. I've got shrink wrap laying around, and I just ball it up and I put it in each of the threaded holes. You don't have to. I'm gonna chase all of those with a tap when it's all said and done, but I just find that putting something in there to keep the paint from stacking up inside definitely helps when you tap it out. So anyway, we're gonna get started here, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna spray it with some primer, let it sit for about 10 minutes between probably 2 primer coats, and then I'll let it sit maybe 15-20 minutes, let it tack up or flash up, and then we'll start spraying the Chevy Orange. I'm just going to try to do it all. I think the primer, once the primer directions say to make sure that you top coat it within an hour. So we're going to get it all done, and we'll see how it turns out. Just some final thoughts here on the Seymour Hi-Tech engine enamel. This is the Chevy Orange that they offer, and I don't know if I mentioned the part number earlier, but it is EN48. And again, that's just the Chevy Orange that I've sprayed here on this big block. I'll be sure to put a link in the description if you want to check them out. They have some other really nice paint products as well, spray bomb type of paints. I use a lot of their Aluma Blast and Cast Blast for a lot of the restoration work that I do. So anyway, I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. Just a few things to note here, and this is maybe a little petty, but I do find that the nozzle on their spray bombs is a little unfriendly, ergonomically unfriendly. You have to really switch your hand quite a bit when you're spraying it. It's not like some of the nozzles that I've used like on Duplicolor. There's just something about it. It's like it takes a little bit more pressure to squeeze them down. But again, it's a pretty petty considering the results that you get. The other thing that I've noticed too is the sheen comes out just a little bit more glossy when I'm spraying over a previously painted engine. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just because it starts to really fill in some of that casting on the block, but this one has a little bit more sheen to it than I sometimes see with Duplicolor. Now I have another engine, basically another big block over in the corner that was bare, down to bare metal, and I primed it and then sprayed it, and it doesn't have quite the sheen on it. So I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a can-to-can variation or maybe my technique, but it's gonna be a really nice looking engine here. So I've got the heads. I don't know that I showed myself painting the heads, but I got the heads all painted, and the rest of the motor is now ready to be put back together. So anyway, I would love to hear your comments or your thoughts. So be sure to drop a comment. Tell me what type of engine paint you have found to be the best. Would always love to hear, to see what paint everybody is using and what they've liked.